All right, we are live once again. Going to have a twist on today's show. Going to have the podcast master, Podcast Pete. Pete Kane is also a certified high performance coach. But today we're going to talk about his niche in the senior space, seeing that we are in the same area and both are podcasters. So I'm happy to welcome Pete to the show.
Man, it's a pleasure to be here. I love that music and I love the countdown. I was just like jamming to it before.
Well, let's kick this off and just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started podcasting. And I know you have several different niches that you focus on, but of course, being in the senior space, what led you to doing a podcast on that and the type of show and content you have?
Thank you. Good question. So I had a stroke, and so I had to give up my digital business. It probably gave me a stroke. But so digital marketing is you figure out that algorithm, then Google changes it. So then you start from scratch. It's like, oh gosh, I got to build it back. So it was very intense, and whether that was the cause or not, it's not that, it doesn't matter. But after thinking about it for 49 days, I really wanted to make a change because, I just was stressed out going through that kind of environment. And then when I came out, I shut it down. I kept a couple of clients. And then my partner said, Pete, you like golf. Why don't you do golf podcasting? And I went, dang, I like that. So I started out doing foursomes with golf podcasting.
Okay.
But because I wasn't playing golf, because I basically, with half of my body gone,
right,
one-handed wasn't exciting me, although you can't.
Okay. Yeah.
So I moved into a senior facility.
Okay.
Average age is 80, and I'm looking around. So I'm doing my golf podcast. I'm not really kind of connecting with it. I mean, I'm doing it and talking about it, but not the same as playing. So I'm seeing how the vendors come and they approach the senior facility, and all of a sudden they take all their time. They do book an event. They bring a tablet to give away, and like 2 people show up for the presentation.
Right.
Because the facility didn't know how to promote. They sent out one email like 2 days before or something ridiculous, like we don't plan. So I was seeing all this consistency of really adding value to the vendors. So I shifted to start doing podcasting and would invite the vendors on to tell their story, not selling, but just tell their story, give the residents and give people a chance to get to know the vendor, their pain points, their story. So then that kind of led me away from golf to totally do senior living.
That's interesting because that's why obviously I started CareQuest to serve the senior population. Part of it at the beginning was going to be the real estate side of so many people aren't prepared. So, hey, provide cash for their house. And then it was a seller's market, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, we naturally added on being a placement service as well. And so the podcast was a way that I think, hey, there's not enough content out here, in my opinion. People don't know what to do, where to go, where to turn. So similar story as yours, but let me spin this off in a little bit of a direction that I wasn't thinking about until we were talking. And you're actually are a resident at a community, and the stroke led that. Was you involved at the time in that entire process? Are you the one that seeked out the right community for you? What was the process of how did that happen?
I basically going through a divorce, and looking for apartments that had walk-in showers. I knew this place had been built 8 years ago, and I started not finding anything up here in Kennesaw because it's all college, mostly college. And they don't need walk-in showers when you're 25 years old or 20. So I was like, what do I do? And I didn't know about a senior locator. So I picked a place, and they've gone through 3 community managers in the less than 2 years I've been here. So management becomes critical to the leadership of any community. So I saw that there was a need for people to have senior locators, need to guide people through the selection of what's out there. Didn't
Yeah.
even know. I mean, I was a senior hitting 65. So I move in and I'm going like, I'm looking around, and the first day, I'm hanging out at my country club because I don't know that many people. And
Right.
I come back after an event, and there's a van outside of the door. And I'm going, man, that's kind of weird. People working this late at night. And come to find out, it was the coroner, and it was somebody who was obviously coming out. And so I met the person that next day, and because she was new, and I said, hey, I'm new, and I introduced myself, and she goes, I said, do you live here? And she goes, no, my dad used to. And I said, oh, okay, I think so. No. And she said, I said, your dad, what's his name? Do I know him? And she says, no, he never left his room. He was 94. So you were independent living, 94. His mom, his sister, no, daughter and son would come visit him and do all the care. So there was a lot of people that once they move into an an independent living, they don't ever leave.
Wow.
So the average age here is just a little bit over 80.
Okay.
I'm 66, no, 67. And I didn't think that I would kind of be living in that type of an environment at this age. I mean,
Right. Understand.
Yeah. And so I had breakfast with them, and it's about 90% women. So I'm a single guy. And
Yeah, it's like that works.
yeah, it gets all jacked up from there. But the reason is you kind of match people with what they need, and
Correct.
you kind of know what the resources are out there. And I think that a lot of times we don't know the resources. So yourself being a podcaster, myself being a podcaster, we are able to bring stories from vendors, from people in the senior living space, that you get to know their story, what they do, and how they may be able to serve the senior living community. So that kind of evolved over a couple, 3, 6, 9 months. So it was a very good resource to provide more stories, more resources to people in the senior community.
I think it's awesome you're doing it, Pete. And it's you and I both. It's kind of neat to talk with you because the people that we get to know, because obviously before a show we're talking, after a show we're
Yes.
talking, and you
Yes.
get to know people and really get the behind the scenes of their life and
Yes.
the story behind, if they started the company, or the story behind how they got involved in working for the company that they work for. But I
Yes.
think it's also you've hit it square on the head, talking about the behind the scenes of how frequently management and even ownership changes hands at these
Oh,
places.
yes.
And even as an advisor, have no control over that.
Yep.
And it happens, and we get the news almost when everybody else gets the news, unless someone close to us goes, hey, by the way, here's what's coming. But it's a stressful side to this business. And what's unique about you is you're experiencing it as a resident and then also as a professional. And it's one of those things to where I know we both have the cogs of the wheels go through our brain of going, how can we bring better value? How can we fix some of the gaps that we see in this industry?
Yep.
And there's really no answer right now, because you've got the bean counters, the hedge funds, the big money companies that want to pad up their 401k investments and all that stuff. So they look at cash flow cows. They think,
Yep.
come in. The senior industry is not even begin to boom yet. 65,000 people a day turning 10,000 people a day turning 65. But the first thing they do is cut service. COVID messed up the staffing issues, but it's unique that you're experiencing it for both sides. So, what is your favorite part of the podcast that you do for the senior space? What would be your favorite part of it? Would it be residents? Would it be professionals? Would it be bringing knowledge? What would that be?
I think what you alluded to earlier is the relationships that you get from the vendors. And really, I don't have really residents coming on my podcast because I think that's a separate thing, because
Everything. Yeah.
the stories are really important, but the bandwidth of being able to deliver that, because vendors want business.
Yeah.
If you can deliver business for them, value, everybody spends money. It's just, where do you spend the money and what kind of results do you get? And I think too many times we spend money where we don't know what kind of results we're getting. I'll give you an example. I had a person on my recently, and I was asking them questions about where they generate their leads. And there's an association up here. 3 years, this person had been going to this association. Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. So we kid ourselves that we got to be everywhere, and we spend all this time trying to get exposure, but you have to be honest with yourself. If you want a social, that's different. But if you're going to an association to generate business, you got to track things.
Yeah.
You have to know where the business is coming, because, too many mistakes in a business, you'll be out of business. So it's so important to know where you get your leads, where you get your value. And I think with us telling the stories of our vendors, we're able to deliver value. They can take the podcast, they can share it, they can introduce us to other people. It's a it just goes by itself, because once I'm on it, I want my friends to know about Mark. So I recommend my friends to Mark, and then it just keeps going. You just keep perfecting the interview, the process, the present, asking the good questions that you're asking and delivering the value. And I'll say this, we will always be friends because of podcasting.
Yeah.
So I run into people a year that I did a podcast a year ago, and it's like I just did it with them, because you learn the story of people. People always remember stories.
True. And what's really, really good about it is anytime we're all starting out, you're not, we were talking about this earlier, you're not going to have the Joe Rogan subscriber base and viewership, but the content is alive forever. And you sit there and you think about what I enjoy offering to colleagues and vendors and all, is they can take that content and use it to help promote their services. And I think that's just needed, more, and they're not having to pay a fortune to some marketing or video company or whatever. I just enjoy being able to try to make a difference like you do. But this industry is interesting. It's I kind of have my visions and see things to where I'd like it to be. I think it's fragmented. I think too many people are trying to do their own thing without collaborating together. But what are you seeing as a main challenge from the inside as a resident? I know you had touched on a couple of things, but what are you noticing living there that you are kind of seeing that the ownerships of just different communities may need to pay attention to?
Wow, it's changed. Anytime a growing market is growing, you're going to have people jumping into it. And I think you alluded to it, the private equity firms, the different people that see growing 10,000 people a day. I mean, it's going to attract a lot of people because there's a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
So you have to be, as a resident, very aware of your resources. From the standpoint, I had a friend of mine tell me the other day, his friend's in Florida. He's visiting his mom, and the director pulled him aside and said, "Look, we just changed hands. The company that bought us, how we get your mom out of here?" So those kind of things happen like quickly. So if you're all of a sudden are not aware of that, you'll kind of see the service levels go down.
Yeah.
And if you're not like let's just say our mom and dad are in a place, they may not want to say, Mark, hey, this, but you could, from your eyes, see things that can prevent, issues that are coming. So I think you always have to know what you can about the industry. And I think the good thing about, you said collaboration. Everything's is key is collaboration. We now know each other. So if somebody called me and said, hey, I'm looking for such and such, and I'm moving down to South Atlanta in the Peachtree area, and you know anybody that's a good resource, just like Brian recommended you to me, that's what this industry does, because it's a giving industry. Everybody knows how to serve. They serve their patients. They serve their residents. They serve each other. So Brian says, you got to meet Mark Little. And I was going, oh, really? What am I going to, no, I didn't say that. But I was saying, he goes, he's just like you. I said, dang, I don't know if I want to see.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
So, but then when we have that common thread of podcasting, it becomes a strong relationship connection that you never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
It took somebody saying, hey, let me introduce you to, because Brian's a giver. He's a server.
He absolutely is.
So he's always looking, how can I serve my clients, my patients, that kind of thing.
I think from a business side of things, when meet wonderful people like Brian, and you see everybody that wants to stick their flag in the sand and start their own service, there's that part of me, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, Pete. I don't know how to be anything but that. Hang on, my co-host wants to get up here in my lap.
There you go.
So I am looking for that dream team. I'm looking for that, the people that have the heart necessary for the advisor side. They're tired of the corporate world and the pressures of it.
Yep.
And I'm like, I do not have the pockets to pay the salary. I've so heavily invested, building the company at this point in time, but the commissions can be lucrative. If you want a family environment business with no corporate pressure, I'm looking to build a dream team, because I know that CareQuest, and my dreams and visions for that is to really be a company that makes a difference and matters, like so many other companies do. But it's just, trying to get some joint ventures with some of these larger companies. Hey, let us be your placement service. Quit scattering people out and going to those online companies that monetize data, et cetera. So, it's an interesting journey to say the least. But there was, back to what you were saying a minute ago, there was a community of 60 beds that ended up falling into a tort claim, and they shutting down. So 60 families have been given notice.
Yeah.
And here's what I think is important. And I want you to tell me if I'm viewing it properly. You live at that community, just like all the other residents. That becomes your home. It's not just, hey, I'm staying here like it's a hotel, or you're on a cruise ship, living in your suite for the length of the cruise. That's your home. The room is where you stay, and it's sad to hear people staying in their room and not, getting out and enjoying the socialization of things. But that's your homes.
Yep.
And like, oh, whoops, we mismanaged, or there's a tort claim, whatever. You got to go. That's a lot.
Oh yeah,
that's a whole lot. So those things should not be missed. Pete, what would you like to close out with? What's something that you would have a heartfelt message that you think needs to be shared for people that are facing caretaking for a loved one? Maybe they're facing something personal like yourself. They're scared. They're confused. just anything that would help encourage them to maybe take the steps to reach out to a service to help them find a community for themselves. What would you like to share?
I think it's so important to stay away from the cold traffic, meaning don't fall into the Googling of something.
Mm,
Know who you're calling.
mm,
So ask around to your friends that are in the industry. Who do you know? That's going to be so much better than finding a person online that has a fancy website and doesn't know you from Adam. That is probably the lowest form of really getting value. Because if I refer you, my reputation's on the line. If
right.
have a bad experience, the person, I say, hey, Mark, he does this, and all of a sudden you do a terrible experience. Well, you're going to go, the person that referred is on the line. So you're going to make sure you do a great job at that. When you find a lead online, it's who buys leads.
Mm,
So I would say stay away from Googling. Go to people that are trusted people in the industry and ask questions. And don't wait. So many people wait till they're 65 and then
mm.
they say, okay, Medicare is here. What do I do? Well, you should be doing that about 60. You should
Yeah,
be starting to find out, because it's not just turn the switch on. There's a lot of decisions to make, and
yeah,
you have to have a professional to help you through it. We've gotten too much into there's a YouTube solution for everything.
true.
Well, you don't know who's behind that YouTube sometimes. It's
Yeah,
like they give advice. Maybe it's good, maybe it isn't. But if I trust Mark, I will ask
yeah,
Mark for his advice, or who does he know that can help. So that's what I would say to our
yeah.
viewers.
Fantastic. Well, Pete, I want to say this for what it's worth. Life happens to all of us, and
Mhm.
we all are putting our best foots forward, trying to have our professional faces out there in the world. And we go to networking events, business meetings, and this and that. For what it's worth, I want to just personally say I'm sorry that you had a stroke.
Oh, hey,
I,
look, let me just say this. I appreciate that.
yeah,
If you told me today I would have that magic wand where I could eliminate it and still be running and playing golf, or have the stroke, I'll take the latter,
wow.
because of the lessons you learn about yourself.
What a
You learn
testimony, man. I mean,
hey, look, I
that's
love to run. I've run in 25 peach trees. I don't know when the next one I'm going to be able to run
yeah,
in, but people are telling me 6 to 8 years.
yeah,
So you pull that away, you pulled my golf away, which was two pretty important things,
yeah,
physical activity. But I don't think there's anything more important about knowing who you are, being
mm,
clear about where you want to go, and getting away from the busyness. We
yeah,
get so busy, and we don't think.
yeah,
Think. That phone is taking us. You have a brief moment, you're waiting for someone. You see, everybody goes to the phone. It's
yeah.
like we're always stimulating in the wrong way
Yeah,
brain, when your brain is there to think, not process information. And if I can say this, because you asked a great question, we're in an economy of creating content, not
mm,
consuming it.
consuming,
Through 4 hours a day, people watch TV. 4 hours. That's
mm,
consuming. How much is that a year when you think of you're just consuming information? Look, we have all the information we need out there. Be a creator, whatever you do.
mm,
And podcasting is creating.
yeah. Well, I am so glad Brian introduced us. I'm looking
Hey,
forward to
likewise.
being
Look,
a
I
friend and
hollered at him the other day. I said, Brian, man, you're my hero.
but good stuff. Well, Pete, thanks for jumping on here with me. I look forward to doing more stuff with you down the road. I think we both have the same heartbeat and vision and all that. And as long as we can keep putting out content that matters and can help people, we're on the right path. So with that said, thank you, Pete. And we will catch everybody on the next show. Until next time, later.
Appreciate you, Mark. Thanks so much.